You don't need to block them. You don't need to text them. You just need to disappear for 30 days, and you'll watch the very person who rejected you start to crack. That's not revenge. That's reality. That's what happens when someone plays with your heart, drains your energy, walks away like you're trash, and you go silent. Not to punish, not to prove, but to transform. My friends, this is your turning point, because everything you've tried up to this point, posting for their attention, hoping they'll notice, replaying conversations in your head, sending one last message, it hasn't worked, has it? And why? Because they never respected consistency. They only start shaking when your presence becomes scarcity. Before we go deeper, hit that like button if someone made you feel disposable, if they left you hanging, confused, ghosted, or used you for your energy. Click subscribe right now and comment below 30 days of power. Say it, own it. Because after this, you're never going back to who you were when they walked away. Hey folks, imagine this. Imagine a room that used to be filled with your laughter, your messages, your care, your presence. You were always there, a light in the corner, a comfort they never thanked. But one day, you leave, quietly. No announcement, no argument, no drama. You just disappear. And at first, they don't notice. They think you're playing a game. They think you'll come back. But slowly the room gets darker, colder, lonelier. Now they're looking around like, where did they go? They'll open the door and realize you're not coming back. And that absence? That's when the regret starts to bleed through the ego. Let's stop pretending. Let's stop rewriting the story to protect their feelings. They treated you like a doormat, stepped on your kindness, used your emotions as an ego boost. You were always the one checking in, always the one showing up. And they loved that. Not because they loved you, but because they loved what your love did for them. You became their comfort zone, their safety net, their emotional punching bag when they were bored. And when they thought they could do better, they left, ghosted, ignored you like garbage they forgot to take out. But listen closely, you're not garbage. You were the gift they never unwrapped. And now you disappear for 30 days. Emotionally, energetically, spiritually, you go dark. No explanations, no stories, no online breadcrumbs, because this isn't about hurting them. This is about reintroducing them to the version of you they thought they'd never lose. Let them feel the loss they created. Let them sit in the silence they once gave you. They don't know it yet, but that silence will start to scream. And when it does, that's when they'll start to break. Not with words, but with confusion, panic, obsession. They'll start wondering, why did they stop reaching out? Who are they with now? Are they over me? That uncertainty, it'll eat them alive. Because they thought they had time. They thought you were weak. They thought wrong. And you're not watching. You're not checking. You're not reacting. You're rebuilding. You're glowing in the quiet, growing in the shadows, becoming so powerful, so unreachable, that even if they beg, they'll never get the old version of you again. Let them cry. Let them miss you. Let them drown in the space you left behind. Because for 30 days, you're choosing yourself, not for attention, but for ascension. Say it with me now. 30 days of power. Write it in the comments like a promise. Smash that like. Hit subscribe. Because we're just getting started. And what's coming next? It's going to shake their ego to the core. Stay with me. Number 1, they fed on your energy. Now starve the ego. They weren't in love with you. They were in love with the control your love gave them. Let that punch the breath out of you for a second, because that's what they were feeding on. Not your heart, not your soul, your effort, your emotional labor, your availability. They didn't value you. They valued what you did for them. You were the constant, the one who always cared, the one who replied fast, showed up early, forgave easily, explained endlessly. And they soaked it in like kings and queens at a royal feast, while giving you crumbs like you were lucky to be in the room. Let's not sugarcoat it. They fed on you, on your energy, on your softness, on your light. And now they're choking, because the supply got cut. You were their emotional oxygen. They needed you to feel powerful. Every time you reached out, their ego inflated. Every time you asked what's wrong, they felt important. Every time you forgave what should have been a final straw, they knew they still had a grip on your soul. You weren't a person to them anymore. You were a reflection, a mirror they stood in front of to admire themselves. But now, that mirror's gone, shattered, silent. Imagine this, my friends. Imagine someone floating in deep water, but they don't know how to swim. And you've been holding them up, treading water, lifting them with everything you had, even when you were tired, even when you were sinking. But they never thanked you. They never looked down to ask if you were okay. They just floated, used you, acted like your strength was owed to them. And then one day, you stop. You let go. And now they're kicking, splashing, panicking, because the one thing keeping them afloat is gone. They're not angry because they lost you. They're angry because they lost their control. They're not confused because you disappeared. They're confused because the version of you that was addicted to their scraps doesn't exist anymore. And I get it. You're wondering why it hurts, why it's hard, why you still want to reach out, because you were conditioned, trained to believe that if you stopped giving, you'd stop mattering. You thought your value lived in what you provided, not in who you are. And that's the lie you swallowed. That's the reason you stayed too long. That's why you kept proving yourself to someone who already made up their mind to not appreciate you. Let me say this loud. They never loved you. They loved the access. Access to your kindness, your consistency, your warmth. They loved the way you made them feel about themselves. And now that you're gone, they don't know who they are anymore, because your energy was the drug. And now they're in withdrawal. Don't fall for the mask they're wearing, the fake posts, the forced smiles, the "I'm doing great" performance. Behind that screen is a person screaming into silence, starving for your attention, starving for your reaction, starving for the old supply they thought would never run out. And here's what they never expected. You figured it out. You saw the pattern. You caught the game. And now you've flipped the script. Because when you disappear for 30 days, you don't just vanish. You starve the ego. You take away the only thing that made them feel superior, your attention. And without it, they shrink. They spiral. They start doing the math. Why haven't they messaged me? Did I lose them? Did they move on? And those questions, that uncertainty, that's the ego cracking under pressure. Let me ask you something, straight up. How long are you going to keep feeding people who starve you in return? How many more times will you confuse being needed with being respected? When did you decide your heart was a public buffet? Stop acting like your energy is cheap. Stop handing out royalty to people who treat you like a disposable lighter, use you up, toss you, find another. My friends, it's time to starve the beast, because love without respect isn't love. Connection without consistency is manipulation, and presence without reciprocity, that's slavery. You don't owe them your voice. You don't owe them your check-ins. You don't owe them your lifeline. They had access. They abused it. Now they get silence. And if you're still scared they'll forget you, scared they'll move on. Let me tell you something hard but true. If someone only remembers you because you keep reminding them, that's not connection. That's captivity. Let them miss you, let them feel it, let them sit in the same silence they used to weaponize against you, because now the silence is yours, and they're choking on it. Say this with me, and say it like you mean it. My silence starves the ego that fed off me. Write it in the comments like a vow, not just to show them, but to show yourself, show the world. Show the old version of you that stayed far too long, because this is just the beginning. And what's coming next? Let's just say, the silence isn't just hurting them, it's destroying them. Stay with me. Number 2, the illusion of indifference, why they're not actually fine. No one performs confidence louder than the secretly insecure. And that's exactly what's happening right now. Don't be fooled. Don't fall for the mask. Because during the first week of your disappearance, they'll act like they're living their best life. Suddenly they're posting non-stop, throwing out selfies with fake laughter, captioning everything with some half-baked quote like "healing in peace" or "good vibes only." But behind that performance, behind that desperate attempt to show the world they're unbothered, is panic. It's the illusion of indifference. It's ego screaming, "Look at me," while the soul quietly bleeds behind the scenes. It's their last trick, their last defense, because they expected you to fall apart, not fall silent. You were always the consistent one, the one who checked in, the one who reached out, the one who still tried even after being ignored. And now that you've disappeared, no message, no reaction, no signs of life, they're scrambling. But they won't show you that. No. Instead, they'll crank up the volume on their fake happiness, hoping it gets back to you. But listen, my friends, that happiness, it's hollow, it's staged, and it's for you. They're not doing it to celebrate freedom. They're doing it to trigger you, to reel you back in, to make you question whether they ever cared. And some of you, you're falling for it. You're checking their stories, zooming in on who they're with, wondering if that smile is real, wondering if they've replaced you. You start asking, was I ever important? Are they really this happy without me? But that's exactly the trap. They want you to react, to break the silence, to chase. Let me give it to you straight. The ones who are truly over you don't try to prove it. They move in peace, not performance. They evolve in silence, not showmanship. So when they start posting more, flirting louder, suddenly glowing online, they're not healed, they're hurting. They're trying to outrun the truth that just hit them. You're not playing anymore. You're not watching the show. You're gone, and they don't know how to function without your energy. Imagine a spotlight on a stage. You used to be the one clapping, cheering, giving attention. But now you've left the theatre, and they're still standing there, lights on, makeup flawless, performing for empty seats. And the silence? It's deafening. That first week of pretending doesn't last. The mask will start to slip, because ego can only carry a lie so far. At night, they'll scroll through your old chats. At work, they'll check your profile. They'll think about what they could say to get a reaction, any reaction. But you're quiet, cold, distant, unreachable. And that silence, that's when the questions start to eat them alive. What if they're over me? What if they really moved on? What if they're not even watching anymore? And that, right there, is the beginning of the breakdown. Your silence makes them doubt the very performance they're putting on. You're not validating it. You're not watching the act. And when the actor loses the audience, they lose the script, and panic replaces the performance. So don't fall for the illusion. Don't chase the mask. Don't respond to bait disguised as confidence, because it's all a game and your silence is winning. You don't need to clap back. You don't need to post anything in return. You just need to remain still, unshaken, because their mask is cracking, even if you're not watching. The longer you stay silent, the louder their insecurity screams. And the longer you're gone, the more real your absence becomes. You want real power? You want to make them feel it? Then don't watch them fall apart. Just make sure you're not there to catch them when they do. Say this with me now, and drop it in the comments like a hammer. Their mask is cracking. I'm not watching. Not because you're cold, but because you've risen above the need to be seen by people who only valued you when they thought you were easy to reach. Show them, show yourself, show the world. And stay with me, because in the next part, we dive into what happens after the mask breaks, and the silence starts echoing in every room they thought they owned. Number 3, Week 2. The empty room starts echoing. By week 2, the illusion starts to break. They laughed louder in stories last week, smiled harder, flaunted their fake healing era like it meant something. But this week, something's changed. The mask is slipping, and the noise they created isn't working anymore. Because when the crowd stops clapping, when the comments don't hit the same, when your silence doesn't turn into a message, they realize something terrifying. You didn't flinch. They expected a reaction. They expected a moment of weakness. They expected you to see them moving on and spiral. But you didn't spiral. You vanished. And now the room they used to dominate, the space in your mind, your phone, your emotions, is silent. And that silence, it's starting to echo. Imagine an old house, one that used to be full of sound, laughter, footsteps, life. But now, empty halls, dusty air. Every creak feels louder, every shadow feels heavier. That's what's happening in their head. That's what it feels like when someone who was always there suddenly isn't. They start checking your profile, subtly, quietly, maybe with a burner account, maybe just scrolling in silence, staring at old photos, rereading old chats, trying to figure out where they lost control. They won't admit it, of course, but their actions scream what their ego won't confess. I miss the version of you that loved me despite how I treated them. But that version of you is gone. You gave your warmth, your patience, your time. And what did they do? Treated it like background noise, something they assumed would always be there. But now that it's gone, the silence is louder than anything they've ever heard. That's the part they weren't ready for. Because see, when you disappear, really disappear, you don't just walk away. You take with you everything they never appreciated. The good mornings, the check-ins, the comfort of being desired, the consistency they took for granted. You were the heartbeat in a space they didn't know was alive, until you stopped beating for them. And now, that house is quiet, that room is cold. And their ego is choking on the silence they used to weaponize against you. This is where the real breakdown begins, not because they suddenly love you, but because they suddenly realize you're not coming back. This isn't a test. It's not a trick. It's not one of those they'll reach out in a few days cycles they're used to. No, this time, you're gone. And when someone who fed off your light suddenly finds themselves in darkness, they panic. They start reaching for old messages, watching old stories, listening to voicemails they swore they deleted, looking for clues, hoping for a sign that you're still watching, still wondering, still waiting. But you're not. And that's what drives them crazy. Not the silence itself, but the certainty that the silence is real, that you're not in the audience anymore, that the show has ended, curtain closed, applause stopped. And now, they're left with nothing but echoes. Did they replace me? Are they with someone better? Why aren't they watching me anymore? These are the questions that start to consume them, and the longer they stay unanswered, the louder they get. You don't have to say a word, because silence, my friends, is a mirror. And in that mirror, they see everything they ignored, everything they dismissed, everything they broke. They start to feel your absence in the small things, reaching for their phone and realizing there's no new message, waking up and not seeing your name, scrolling and realizing you're not watching anymore, you're not playing the game. And that's when fear creeps in. Because people don't fear losing the person, they fear losing control over the person. And you've taken it back. You've reclaimed your worth by disappearing. You've regained your power by going silent. You've become unforgettable, not by shouting, but by vanishing. Say this with me right now, and drop it in the comments like a curse-breaking spell. I leave behind silence they can't unhear. Say it for every time you gave them the benefit of the doubt. Say it for every moment you ignored your own needs to meet theirs. Say it for every time you stayed when they treated you like background noise. You're gone now. And the silence you left behind, it's going to haunt them a whole lot louder than any words ever could. Stay with me. Because week 3, that's when their questions become desperation and their mind becomes their punishment. Number 4. Week 3. The questions begin to haunt them. By the time week 3 hits, it's no longer silence. It's psychological warfare. And here's the part they never planned for, the part that breaks them. It's not that you haven't said a word. It's that they have no idea why. You see, my friends, humans can handle rejection. They can even handle being blocked, insulted, told off. At least then they know where they stand. At least then their ego has something to work with. But silence? Real, unshaken, emotionally unreachable silence. That's uncertainty. And uncertainty, my friends, is poison to the ego. Because now, in the 3rd week of your 30-day disappearance, their mind becomes the prison. Their questions become the guards, and their regrets become the chains. It starts simple. I wonder if they're seeing someone. But that question doesn't stop there. It loops, it mutates, it becomes darker. Were they always talking to someone else? Did I lose them to someone better? Did they ever even love me? Or was I just a phase? And it's not just the questions, it's the lack of answers that kills them. When they try to check your profile and see nothing, when they stalk your page and find no clues, when they scroll through old conversations and feel the warmth but know it's gone, they begin to spiral because their control is gone, and now they're stuck in the worst kind of emotional hell, the what-ifs, the maybes, the did I mess up? The brain, when deprived of closure, becomes its own worst enemy. And here's the brutal truth. Uncertainty breaks the mind faster than rejection ever could. You didn't insult them. You didn't argue. You didn't fight to explain your worth. You just left, and now their thoughts are punishing them far more than your words ever could. Imagine being in a dark room with no doors, no windows, just voices echoing in your head. That's what it feels like to be them right now. And the worst part? They did this to themselves. They thought they could discard you like trash. They thought you'd come running back like a trained pet. They thought silence meant submission, but you flipped it. Silence became a sword, and now it's cutting them from the inside out. They wonder, are you with someone better now? Someone who actually sees your worth? Someone who didn't need to lose you to value you? They wonder, why aren't you reaching out? Why aren't you checking their stories? Have you really moved on? But they'll never ask you directly. Oh no, ego won't let them. So they guess, they assume, they spiral, and that's when the panic turns to obsession. They go from trying to be seen to trying to understand how they became irrelevant in your world. Because if you're not watching them anymore, that must mean they no longer matter. Let me say it again. They are not haunted by your silence. They are haunted by the fact that your silence doesn't break. And every day that passes, you grow stronger. They grow smaller. Every day that goes by with no response, you ascend in their mind. They start to rewrite your story. At first, they told themselves you were weak, emotional, easy to get back. But now you're mysterious, powerful, confusing, unreachable, the exact thing they fear most. Because they thought they had time. They thought they could string you along, breadcrumb you, test your patience, but they pushed too far, and now, for the first time, they're seeing you through the lens of what they lost. And my God, does it burn. So let them guess. Let them replay the moments. Let them scroll. Let them suffer. Because your silence is not about punishment. It's about power, stoic power, the kind of power that doesn't scream. It just watches everything fall apart without lifting a finger. Say this with me, and I want you to write it in the comments like you're carving it into stone. They guess, I grow. Let that be your reminder. Every time you want to check their page, every time you think about reaching out, every time you wonder if they care. Know this, they're not just thinking about you, they're obsessing, they're questioning, they're breaking, and you're rising in silence. Stay with me, because week 4 is where the mask completely shatters, and panic turns into desperate action. Number 5, week 4, when the panic kicks in. By the time week 4 rolls around, it's no longer about silence, it's about domination. Not in a loud, toxic, revengeful way. No, this is dark stoicism at its finest. It's quiet power, cold poise, the kind that doesn't flinch, the kind that watches the storm come and doesn't even blink. And now, the storm has started. Week 4 is where the panic kicks in, because your silence didn't break. And their performance? It fell flat. This is the week they start poking at your energy like a child knocking on a door they swore they'd never return to. A like on your post, a story view, a vague meme about timing or healing, maybe even a weak text like, "Hey, just checking in." But don't get it twisted. Don't confuse this for love, because this isn't a heart reaching out. It's an ego gasping for air. They're not reaching because they care. They're reaching because they're losing. Losing the upper hand. Losing the illusion that they were the prize. Losing the game they swore they were winning. Because somewhere deep down, they finally realized the worst thing possible. You're not waiting anymore. You've flipped the script. They used to have you on standby, emotional reserve, a backup battery for their insecurity, someone who always answered, who always cared. But now, the roles have reversed. They're watching you. They're wondering what you're doing. They're replaying conversations, stalking profiles, overanalyzing the silence. And that silence, my friends, it's ripping them apart. Let me break it to you. They didn't expect you to survive without them. They expected you to fold, to beg, to send a long message filled with pain and confusion. They thought your silence was a moment. But now they see it's your new lifestyle. And they're crumbling. But they won't show it in obvious ways. Their pride is still too fragile, so they'll throw out bait, low-effort signals, vague interest, emotional breadcrumbs, and they'll wait just to see if you'll bite. But the moment you respond, the moment you engage, you reset the power. So don't do it. Don't text back. Don't like it. Don't react. Because that's what they're fishing for. They're hoping your silence wasn't real, that it was just a tactic, that maybe, just maybe, you're still under their control. But you're not. Because now they're the one waiting. They check their phone like you used to. They stare at your silence like it's a verdict. They wake up in cold anxiety because that message never came. And guess what? It won't. Because this isn't about ego revenge. This is about energetic return. They gave you silence first. They gave you distance. They gave you confusion. Now, let them break in the silence they built. And don't feel guilty. Don't feel bad for watching someone choke on the chaos they created. You warned them. You loved them. You gave your best. And when they had it, they trashed it, tossed it like a doormat they wiped their insecurities on. But now they want it back. Not because they deserve it, but because they realize they'll never find it again. This is what they never thought would happen. You weren't supposed to move on. You weren't supposed to outgrow them. You weren't supposed to be silent this long. But now your silence is louder than every conversation they ever ignored. And you're unbothered, unreachable, unapologetically unavailable. You've become the storm they didn't predict, the silence they can't handle, the ghost they can't forget. So let them reach, let them whisper, let them break. Because the same silence they used to hurt you now wraps around them like a cage. Say this with me, say it like a spell, and drop it in the comments to mark this transformation. Let them break in the silence they gave me first. Say it for your past self. Say it for the nights you cried alone. Say it for every unanswered message, every fake apology, every half-truth they fed you to keep you close but never claim you. You don't owe them a response, because this isn't silence anymore. This is power. Stay with me. Because next, we go beyond revenge, into becoming so unrecognizable, they wouldn't know how to love you, even if they begged for a second chance. Number 6, you didn't just disappear, you rebuilt. Disappearing wasn't retreat, it was rebirth. Let that sink into your bones, my friends. You didn't just vanish into the background like some discarded toy, hoping to be picked up again. No, you disappeared with purpose, with fire, with vengeance, not the petty kind, but the sacred kind, and the kind that's born in silence and crowned in evolution. You didn't disappear to be missed. You disappeared to be reborn. While they were refreshing their ego with likes, shallow distractions, and empty conversations, you were in the trenches, with your demons, with your journal, with your truth. You trained, you sweated, you healed. You wrote the thoughts they never knew you had. You cried the tears they never cared to wipe. You faced the shame they projected onto you and turned it into fuel. That room where you disappeared to, it wasn't a prison, it was a forge, and inside that silence you built. They thought you'd be watching them, but you were watching yourself. You were reconstructing the masterpiece they mistook for ordinary. And now you walk different, talk different, think different. You've upgraded everything, not to impress them, but because you finally remembered who you are. While they were posting selfies to feel alive, you were doing squats, writing goals, unlearning patterns. While they were doom-scrolling, you were discipline building. While they were out healing on someone else's body, you were reclaiming your mind. They spiraled. You sharpened. Because here's the difference between them and you. They used people to numb the pain. You used pain to sharpen the blade. And now you carry silence like a sword. Let's talk about the contrast. They're still trying to be seen, still faking joy, still chasing the same empty validation they used to laugh at you for needing. But you turned stillness into evolution. You turned heartbreak into a higher standard. You don't beg to be noticed anymore. You are the standard now. You used to wait on their texts. Now you leave them on red in your mind, because even thinking about them doesn't hold weight anymore. You used to crave answers. Now your clarity makes their confusion louder. You used to ask, was I good enough? Now you look in the mirror and say, they never were. And the irony? The more you disappear, the more you appear in their mind. Not the same version they left behind, but someone too big for the box they tried to keep you in. They never saw this version coming, because this version isn't desperate. This version isn't broken. This version isn't waiting. This version is dangerous. And if they were to come back now, you wouldn't even flinch. Not because you hate them, but because you outgrew the identity that ever wanted them that way. They say silence speaks louder than words, but transformation, that screams. You don't need to post about your glow-up. You are the glow-up. You don't need revenge. You became the consequence. And now they'll scroll, they'll wonder, they'll obsess. But they'll never get access again, because you didn't disappear to be found. You disappeared to be remade. Say it with your chest, and drop it in the comments like it's the final word. I'm not the same soul they left behind. Say it for the one who stayed loyal while being lied to. Say it for the version of you that cried in silence while they played pretend. Say it for the self you had to bury to rise. You're not lost. You're becoming. And now that your light isn't shining on them, they feel the cold they created. Stay with me. Because next, we talk about what happens when they finally come back, and you're no longer emotionally available for the version of them that thought you were disposable. Number 7, when they return but find no access. They had their chance. I choose me now. Let that echo like thunder through every version of you they ignored, because when they finally come crawling back, and they will, it won't be out of love. It won't be out of clarity. It'll be out of confusion, out of panic, out of desperation to reclaim something they once thought would never walk away. But when they return, they'll find no access. They'll send the text, the one that says, "Hey, been thinking about you." They'll slide into your DMS like nothing happened. They'll casually say, "I miss our conversations." They'll act like it wasn't them who ghosted, like it wasn't them who fumbled you, like it wasn't them who treated you like garbage while expecting royalty in return. But guess what? The door is locked now, and the person they once knew no longer lives here. You're not ignoring them to be cruel. You're not rejecting them out of spite. You're simply done, emotionally unavailable, psychologically unreachable, spiritually untouchable, not because of hate, but because of healing. This isn't about playing games. This is about protecting peace. You finally realize that their return doesn't mean redemption, that someone who left you starving for validation doesn't get to dine at the table you built in your silence. Let them text, let them call, let them try to rewind the story. But this chapter, it's not open for edits. They come back hoping for a familiar face, but now you're unfamiliar, stronger, sharper, silent. They thought disappearing would make you weak, but it made you wildly inaccessible. Understand this. What they're experiencing now is not love, it's withdrawal. Withdrawal from your energy, your attention, your constant availability, your softness. But they burned that bridge, and now they stand at the edge, staring into the space where you used to be, only to realize it's gone, forever. Because you don't go back to what broke you just because it knocks on your door again. You don't re-bleed just because the blade says it's sorry. And you don't reopen wounds just because the one who made them regrets leaving scars. You're done. Not angry. Not bitter. Done. They might not understand how deep your silence runs until they're screaming into it and getting nothing back. Until their text sits unread. Until they realize their name doesn't make your heart race anymore. It makes your standards tighten. You're not playing hard to get. You're just not available for nonsense anymore. You don't need to reply, not to be petty, but to be free. Let them sit with what they lost. Let them taste the consequence of casual disrespect, because this is what they never expected, that you would actually move on, that you would actually mean your silence, that you would actually choose yourself over their chaos. Let me say this again for the people in the back. Just because someone finally sees your value doesn't mean you owe them access. So when they come back, and they will, don't get flattered, get focused, because that return is not your reward. Your evolution is. Say it out loud, and drop it in the comments like a door slam. They had their chance. I choose me now. Say it for the nights you begged them to care. Say it for the texts they ignored. Say it for the peace you fought for in silence. You are no longer someone who needs closure. You are the one who closed the door. You are no longer the emotional supply. You are the consequence. And next, we seal it all in the final move that breaks the cycle forever, disappearing into power so completely they can only remember you, never reach you. Number 8. The ultimate lesson. You were always the prize. I disappeared and became unforgettable. Say it, own it, let it echo in every cell of your body. Because here's the final truth they never saw coming. They didn't lose you during the 30 days. They lost you the moment they made you question your worth. That exact moment, the second they treated you like an option, like a doormat, like background noise while they chased attention elsewhere, that's when the damage was done. They thought they still had time. They thought you'd always be there. But while they were busy playing games, you were silently outgrowing the version of you that ever settled for crumbs. And now they're craving a ghost, a version of you they can't reach, because you're no longer available for disrespect, confusion, or emotional manipulation. You didn't just disappear from their life, you disappeared from their level. Let this hit you hard, my friend. You were always the prize. They just couldn't see it, because their ego was too busy feeding itself lies. They didn't reject you because you weren't enough. They rejected you because they couldn't recognize value when it was standing right in front of them. And now that they've felt the emptiness of your absence, now that your silence screams louder than their attention ever did, they're chasing a memory. But that memory, that version of you, it doesn't exist anymore. Because in 30 days, you didn't just heal. You rose. You reclaimed every piece of yourself they tried to convince you to hide. You realized you were never too much. You were never too soft. You were never too emotional. You were powerful. You just gave that power to the wrong person. Not anymore. So drop this final affirmation in the comments like a vow to your past self, your future self, and every version in between. I disappeared and became unforgettable. Say it loud. Say it like a weapon. Because this isn't just about them. This is about you, choosing yourself so completely that anyone who lost you feels it forever. So here's the truth that can't be denied. You were never the one who lost. You just needed 30 days to remember who the hell you are. While they spiraled, you rebuilt. While they played games, you evolved. And now, you're not only gone, you're unforgettable. If this video lit a fire in your soul, drop a comment right now. I disappeared and became unforgettable. Don't forget to like, share this with someone rising in silence, and subscribe for more dark stoicism. Your glow-up isn't revenge, it's justice. And they'll never recover from losing the version of you they took for granted.